I know how to record a course, and I know what is difficult about this. Do you have any specific technique when you record, or do you just hit record and then you record until everything is done, and then you stop and you edit the video, or do you have any specific technique? And also, I guess you do the same that I do. You prepare the code beforehand, and you probably have it on a second monitor, right? And then you just type out the stuff that you already have prepared, or do you do it differently?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and this is something that really bugged me in the beginning. I wanted to create a course, but I got to the technical parts. I had like the idea of the project that I want to build, and I was wondering how can I record this. And if you try to Google this this specific issue of how do I record a programming tutorial or something like that, you won't really find the best solution. So I found, for example, a solution where it was saying that you should first record yourself. So you should first record you as you are coding, so the actual IDE, for example, as you start coding, and then afterwards you should voice over everything that you do. And I tried that, and it didn't make sense to me. It was really difficult because it was difficult for me to try to keep the pace with what I initially wrote, and then the voiceover would be sometimes not in sync with that. So it was difficult. So what I did, and what some tutorials don't advise you to do, but I think that you can do it, you can actually just record both the voice and the screen at the same time. Just make sure that you have, as you said, Florian, or maybe on a second monitor, or at least you have the idea in your mind. And this is another important thing that will help you, is try to make the actual lectures, the videos, as short as possible. Why? Because if you do that, you can kind of have granular portions of work, right? And in each video, if it has 4 or 5 minutes, you won't have to prepare that much beforehand. So you can actually go and say that, hey, in this video, I want to extract the state from the view to the view model, and you do that in a few minutes, and you don't have to have everything maybe on a second monitor or written down or whatever. So having short lectures is not actually beneficial for the reader, because most readers prefer that. I prefer having small chunks of videos when I'm learning something, but it's also helpful for you because you can just do these small bits and you don't have to prepare that much beforehand.
Yeah, it's easier to make smaller parts.
Yeah,
that's true. And I also record voice and the screen at the same time, because I find voiceover for coding tutorial feels a bit unnatural.
Yeah.
It looks and sounds and feels better, in my opinion, if you actually speak as you type. And it's also not difficult if you prepare the code beforehand. And even within a single video, I just go like this. I look at the code, I look at my notes, because I've prepared a few notes what I want to say, and then I code this part, and this takes maybe 2 minutes or something like that. And then I look at my notes again, and of course the parts in between I have to cut out later. But this is how I do it. So later you put your recording into your editing program, and then you will cut out the parts where you have breaks or they didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then you have a nice, good looking and good sounding tutorial.
That's something actually a mistake that I was doing really often. As you were saying, if I would find myself mistaking a word, or maybe I don't know, spelling a word not correctly, I would just, I don't know, cut the entire video and then start over. And then I realized that what you could actually do is just, okay, forget about it, get yourself together, right? And then continue the tutorial. And at the end, in the post-editing scene, you can just cut out those portions. And it's just much faster this way, much more proficient, obviously, than doing that. So this is a rookie mistake, if you will, that I've done it. And I think that our audience should maybe avoid it, because it's really time-consuming.
Yeah, this is definitely the hardcore mode of creating a course, where you start completely from scratch again when you did a mistake, or at least start the video over. But what you can also do is, a trick that Philip Luckner actually showed me is, I don't even record the small video at once. I record basically in 20-second to 3-minute increments. And what Philip does, and what I also do now, is I record a small increment, and if I do a mistake, and this part is really bad, then I start over. But I only start over with this very tiny increment. And I've set up a few hotkeys for this on my PC, so I can do it very quickly. I did this with a tool called AutoHotkey. This is a Windows scripting language where you can create really elaborate hotkeys. Even if the software itself that you're using doesn't have these hotkeys, you can still create them in some way with AutoHotkey. And I basically press a button and I record that little part. If I do a mistake, either I cut it out later or I record this whole part again. But again, this is just a very small 30-second clip or something. And then I press a hotkey again that records the next part. And the benefit of this is that even if I do a lot of mistakes and have to repeat stuff, at the end I have to edit very little amount of footage. Because by scratching this whole clip that I just recorded, it's gone. I don't have to take care of it later anymore in editing. So in a 10-minute tutorial video, I usually have like 11 minutes of footage. I just have to cut the ends between each clip so they go together really nicely. And this is a nice way of recording, has saved me a lot of time. But there are also other tricks. I know what some people do is when they do a mistake somewhere, they clap in front of the microphone. So later when they see the audio in the editing tool, they can see where they clapped and they know, okay, this is where I have to cut. I don't know how this works exactly. You can look this up in Google, but there are different tricks to make editing more efficient. Have you ever considered hiring someone to edit your courses, or do you always want to do this yourself?
Yeah, so I was always a one-man team. I don't think that it's really necessary to hire somebody. I've seen actually instructors that hire people to answer their QA questions. I don't know if they do that, for example, with the recording part. But if you ask me, it's fun. It's part of the process. And if I can do it, then it's fine. Maybe if you're like a very well-known teacher and that has hundreds of courses or something, you can afford to do that. But at least in the beginning, it's best for you to dip your toes into it, because you want to actually try to minimize your costs, right? So at least I haven't thought of it, and I actually find it really fun. So it really depends on you.
Yeah, I also have a bit trust issues when it comes to editing courses, not because I think someone steals something or anything like that, but because in order to edit a course properly, you also have to understand the topic, in my opinion, because you have to, I don't know, for example, I sometimes find mistakes in editing later, and then I want to correct these mistakes. And if I don't have this step, if someone else edit these videos for me, then I don't have to have this opportunity to find these mistakes. So I can't really imagine outsourcing the editing of a course, to be honest. I could imagine outsourcing the editing for the podcast, because this is just two people talking to each other that you don't have to know so much. But even there, I have a little bit of trouble of letting go, to be honest. But eventually it makes sense when you make enough money to outsource this, because you can do more of the stuff that actually matters, creating the footage in the first place. But for courses, it's tricky, in my opinion. But maybe this is just a weakness of me, because many people who do something like this have trouble letting go and actually delegating something to someone else. But I often hear that this is important because, yeah, you can use your time more intelligently.